Welcome to Rooted, Stories of Entrepreneurship and Agribusiness, a podcast from Colorado State University's Department of Agricultural and Resource Economics. I'm your host, Lauren Chenarides. I'm currently an assistant professor of agricultural business at Colorado State University, where I teach a course on agribusiness entrepreneurship. In this podcast series, we explore stories of how people across the food and agriculture industry identify problems, create solutions, and build or improve businesses that make an impact. What makes Rooted unique is that each episode is co-hosted by students in the Agribusiness Entrepreneurship course, who bring their own curiosity and questions to the table. Their conversations with leaders across food and agriculture are a chance to learn, reflect, and share those insights with you, our audience of students, entrepreneurs, and change makers in food and agriculture. I appreciate your time and attention, and I'm excited to share these inspiring stories with you. All right, I'm joined today by our student co-hosts, Dani and Firdavs, both agricultural business majors. And our guest today is John Harris. John is the founder of Paradigm Fresh, a produce distribution company focused on wholesale and retail fresh fruits and vegetables. In 2015, John expanded his operations with Colorado Cold Connect, a separate cold storage and logistics business that now services clients like Noosa Yogurt. His companies include a Fort Morgan warehouse that is 150,000 square foot freezer facility with expansion possibilities to reach up to 300,000 square feet, and is supported by a regional fleet of 10 trucks and 40 refrigerated trailers. John is also a former CSU tight end who graduated in 2004 with a degree in animal science. He got his roots growing up on a family onion farm in Fort Morgan and began his career in produce brokerage shortly after graduation. Welcome to the podcast, John. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I will get right into it and ask you the first question on your startup journey for your company. How did you obtain funding to start up your business, either with Cold Connect or Paradigm Fresh?
Before Paradigm Fresh, in 2004, when I graduated from college and started my first company, which was named Rocky Mountain Produce Group, I went to a local bank. I had good credit all the way through out of high school and into college. So that was a good start. I had good credit because of small credit cards, and I had a pickup payment. I I took out a $25,000 line of credit to initially get started, which is not very big. That was 20 years ago. It went a little bit further. And then throughout the years, that line of credit was expanded. I actually had a bank that gave me a line of credit and then didn't understand what I did very well and then pulled the funding. So that was an interesting learning experience. And then I ended up with the bank that I have been banking at now for, probably well over 15 years. I happen to be on the board of directors now at that bank. I have a $3 million line of credit as of today.
So you really started with bootstrapping and then debt equity, as we talk about in class, as some of our finance sources of capital. So do you identify with being someone who bootstrapped his company from the ground up?
There is no question about it. I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I had a little bit of an idea what I was doing, but I mean, mostly naive and ignorant to what I was getting myself into, but I wasn't afraid, and it's what I wanted to do, so I figured it out.
Absolutely. We talk, a lot about just the different ways that entrepreneurs can, go out to get financing, whether that's through local banks or, even something more significant like trying to get venture capital funding. Had that ever crossed your mind?
Well, I've done a little bit of all of them, actually.
Okay.
So, it didn't all happen at once to begin with. You have to you walk before you run.
Exactly.
Rome wasn't built in a day. So all the things that I learned from the beginning until now have been a process. I've had a lot of help over the years. As things start to get bigger and a little crazier, attorneys get involved and people with expertise step in and help out. When I first started, it was just me. I have quite a team behind me now. So there's a lot of people to discuss and bounce ideas off of. It's not just me making the decisions.
Yeah, and on that too, on the sense of the team, when you got started, was it just you? How did you start building that team so that you could have all the people doing what they needed to do?
So 22 years ago when I started, there was no team. It was me. I was the IT, I was the janitor, I was the salesman, I was the accountant. I pretty much did all those things for 5 years until I hired my first real full-time employee. I'd had some part-time assistance and help prior to that, but hired my first employee, and shortly after that, I took on a business partner in 2009, and didn't know what I was doing with that, didn't know what I was getting into. That business partner is not a business partner any longer. He's still a very close friend. We did get divorced. I was too crazy for him.
Yeah.
He's a much more conservative thinker than I am, and the expansions and the things that I've done since I left him that have gotten me to where I'm at today, he was way too chicken to do that. Which didn't make him wrong.
Totally.
Or me right. It was good for both of us to separate.
And we talk about entrepreneurial characteristics, right, Dani?
Yeah, and I think this speaks on something you mentioned previously where you have this mentality to always say yes, and I would love for you to hear you elaborate on that and how you came to that mentality individually too.
So when I essentially sold the first company that I started, which was Rocky Mountain Produce Group, and started Paradigm Fresh, wanted to expand some of the things. Rarely all we sold was onions at Rocky Mountain Produce, and I wanted to expand upon that. In hiring more people at the very onset of the company, I wrote core values for the company. And one of the core values is say yes. And the idea behind saying yes essentially is we'll say yes on the telephone, we'll take the business, and then we'll hang up, and then we'll freak out about it inside of the office and figure out what we've gotten ourselves into. But there is no opportunity in no. You can't forge ahead if you're not saying yes and creating new opportunities and pushing boundaries.
Did you notice patterns in what you were saying yes to, and what patterns when someone was calling? Did you tend to get more orders for a certain commodity, or what kind of patterns did you pick up as you were getting those phone calls?
In the very beginning, I think I said yes to everything, which probably got me in a little bit of trouble.
All over
Just
the board.
yes, it was nobody even had to ask anymore because the answer was just always yes. Do we want to do this?
Almost
do we
like a
want to
joke
do that?
of the company now.
Yeah. So my current CEO, was not the CEO at the time. He had come on as a tomato salesman, and he had this opportunity to open. We had an opportunity to open a warehouse. They needed a distributor in Colorado for tomatoes. So he went and visited with them in Canada. That's where they're located, their corporate offices. And he kind of gave them a little bit of a story of, we have some trucks and we have this warehouse, and we didn't have any of that. And so they ended up signing a contract with us. And I think in 2 weeks, we went out and bought a truck, bought a couple of forklifts. We leased about a 25,000 square foot warehouse and had tomatoes at the facility. So it was a calculated risk.
Risk, yeah.
He knew what he was doing. I knew what I was doing, but we did fib just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, calculated risk taking, that especially with this sense of hustle that you did along the way too.
Perception is reality.
Yeah.
These people knew Travis very well, and they knew that he was more than capable of managing what they needed him to manage. But we didn't have a warehouse like we said we did.
Yeah.
So
So-
we knew that we kind of had scoped this place out and knew that it was available and had
Good.
toured it, but we didn't pull the trigger until we had the contract.
Sure.
So it was cat and mouse.
Yeah.
Is it the chicken or the egg?
Right, right. Makes so much sense.
We weren't chickens, so
No, I think I probably would have done something similar especially if how much capital is required to buy the warehouse without any contracts in it.
we just leased it, so we
Okay,
didn't.
leasing it, yeah, even that.
We just leased it. We had a 5-year lease on it.
Okay, that was my next question. How long would the lease be?
The lease was for 5 years.
Yeah.
And we leased half of the building, and I think about a year into it, we leased the other half of the building, so we had about 50,000 square feet. We actually had some cold space in that building, which is how we accidentally got into cold storage. So it's actually way back then when our relationship with Noosa Yogurt started.
Awesome. That's such an interesting accident.
It was a complete accident. For Travis and I, our roots are produce, and produce is a little bit different animal than distribution. Most distribution companies, nobody operates very quickly. In produce, things need to happen quickly. The turnover is very, very fast. I sell onions for Paradigm Fresh almost as a hobby, and I still sell 50 truckloads of onions a week. So the orders come in quickly and daily, and if you don't snag those orders from these people, they'll go away because they need 3 today and 5 tomorrow, and so you have to be on your toes. And so our business operates with that same mindset. So I would say that our customer service in the cold storage distribution business is really second to none, because we have trained our staff that's how we want them to answer phone calls, reply to emails. Want it to be quickly. If you don't have an answer, that's no problem. You reply back, hey, I got your email, I'm working on it, we'll get right back to you.
Exactly.
Communication,
absolutely. Yeah, and just the promptness too. Even if you don't have the answer right away, being able to just acknowledge that an email was sent or you got that, I think it helps develop relationships. It builds those relationships, and in the business that you're in, I can imagine, John, that those relationships are almost priceless.
They are pretty priceless. I mean, I have relationships that are 20 plus years old, and those relationships have really become friendships at this point.
Yeah,
So
that's great. That's great.
they trust us, you know. They know that we'll say what we do and do what we say.
Yeah, yeah.
I would love to go back to what you were saying about the mentality of with your employees. And you previously mentioned before with me that you operate on a self-cleaning oven method with your employees, and I would love to hear you elaborate on that technique.
Okay. I mean, those are my words, the self-cleaning oven. Really what it boils down to for our team, and this is how my CEO and operations manager have put it into place, but it's really an empowerment situation. We've tried to eliminate the corporate crustiness and some of the hang-ups that people have, like days off and sick days and things like that. It still all has to be tracked and taken care of, but as technology advances, as people clock into work, it's just a thumbprint now. Nearly all of our employees are hourly employees, and they have teams throughout the day, and somebody may have a soccer game to go to, or a dentist appointment to go to, or, you know, their wife needs them to go pick toilet paper up. Who knows, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So we're trying to empower the team to take care of those things amongst themselves. Don't bother the operations manager or the CEO with those things. Let's keep those things in your group and manage those inside. So if Tim is going to be gone, then we need to make sure that Brad is there, and we let those two coordinate that, and they can flip-flop whether it's a weekend or a day shift or an afternoon shift. So that's the self-cleaning oven. And also to empower our warehouse leads to make sure that they're managing their staff and that they have the correct human beings on the floor with them at all times. So if somebody is a weak link and they're not quite showing up enough, or they're just not pulling their weight, to then take that to our operations manager and say we need to bring somebody else in to start training. And we get that person trained, and then whoever the weak link is ends up going away. We have very, very little turnover, but it's something that we have to stay on top of.
At what point when you were, in the business and the company, like managing, when your company started growing, where you had to put in those procedures? Like, was there a moment that you had to respond to and you thought, oh, now's the time I have to implement this process? Or was it something that you got advice from someone else? Like, what inspired that? Because it seems very logical.
Travis inspired it. One of the things that I have learned over all these 22 years is I'm a really miserable person at managing people. And so recognizing that over so many years, and Travis he was helping kind of at the time, and I started to recognize that he was really good at it. And so, mostly out of necessity, I begged him to take on more of it and help more, and he was happy to do that, and he was very good at it. And so most of the methods that I speak of that happen at our company are not my ideas. They're just, they don't come from me. Some of them do, but this one in particular does not.
The power of a good team, right? And, you're talking about you have strong values in your company. You've got these processes in place, and it creates an empowering and also like just overall a good culture. I think it's a place to show up to work every day.
Yeah, I think it gives employees the ability to care to the same level and care for their coworkers as well to the same level of acknowledging you're accountable just as much as I am. And if I'm not accountable, then you're going to be accountable in some way as well, too.
100%. I mean, the type of employee that you always want to have is that one that shows up and does whatever is necessary. When you have too many people that's not my job, you're not in a very good place. And so when everybody is on the same wavelength of this is what needs to be done, and so we're going to go get it all done, have each other's backs, that makes for good culture. We can put all the things in core values and say all the things in the meetings, but that core group of people in the warehouse that are working together every day, it's important that they like each other, that they have each other's backs, that they're taking care of each other, and also happy to be there. We all have to go to work, right? It's one of those things in life that you have to do. So it's better if you like where you work.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I think that we have very little turnover in what is otherwise a really, really high turnover business. Yeah. It's cold at 10 below zero.
As we know, running a big business requires a good leader. So for you, what are the key qualities to find that being a good leader, and how have they developed over the time?
Over the years, one of the things that I had to recognize I don't know if about myself is the right word. I needed to figure out that I didn't have to do it all. I didn't need to be the best at every single thing, and recognizing around me that I had people that had skill sets that were better than mine to take on certain tasks, and to empower them to do that. People that are micromanaged, I don't think excel. I don't think that they're as happy. And so empowering people to, this is what we have decided that your role is going to be, and making sure that it's the correct role, that you have the correct person for those roles, and then letting them go and do what they're good at. Being a leader is a lot of things. You have to bang the drum and set the tone of where the company is going, share those goals with everybody. You can't just keep them inside because nobody will know what direction that you're going in. You've got to have those things. You have to be somewhat fearless and definitely driven to moving forward, moving ahead, being better, being, bigger isn't always better. Better is one of the things that I like to say. But in that direction, becoming better is getting the right people around you. I think making sure that every single person in an organization, no matter what their title or role is, understands that they're not less or more important than another person. You're a spoke, and it requires everybody for that wheel to be strong.
I just, I've been thinking a lot about leadership myself, too. I like this, putting kind of some parameters around it. But, one of the things that I heard you mention, too, John, is that you're talking about having time to be strategic. So, for a leader who has to deal with probably putting out fires a lot of times, how do you manage the putting out fires, balance putting out fires with actually, you know, being strategic, making strategic decisions like, do I buy my next truck, or, you know, other big decisions that are going to impact the company in the long run?
For me, I think that there are two different things, being strategic and putting out fires. Putting out fires, sometimes they're small, sometimes they're great big. Having a fleet of trucks, we've had multiple truck accidents. Those are big problems. We had a fire suppression issue at 7 o'clock on Christmas Eve 7 or 8 years ago, and the fire department wanted to shut us down, and we're open 362 days a year. We're closed on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. That's it. So getting somebody out to work on your fire suppression system on Christmas Day is probably a headache. But we had to operate on the 26th. It was a busy day. So we found somebody that wanted to charge us a bunch of money and come out on Christmas Day and fix what they needed to fix. So those are the fires. I think being strategic is, whether it's myself creating something that I want to put in front of my team, or whether it's something that's already been in front of my team, making sure that we know the why. Why are we doing this? When do we want to do it? How do we want to do it? It involves our CFO. Do we have enough money to do it? Is this a smart decision? Do we need to borrow some money to do it? You know, and those things are big and small. Buying a truck 10 years ago was a big conversation. My CEO called me on Friday morning and said we need another truck, and I drove to Transwest and bought another truck. Mm-hmm. The conversation was very small. Mm-hmm. We just ordered another one. So, you know, as business grows, the problems that we used to have and the big conversations that we used to have are now not the same as they used to be. Mm-hmm. So building a 150,000 square foot, $43 million warehouse, that was a pretty big conversation. Mm-hmm. So
I can imagine, yeah, and to, you know, from when you first got started to now, it's like the level of decision making that goes into it, like you're saying, it changes, it evolves over time.
It really does.
Yeah, I think that applies to, you mentioned how you grew your facilities, and I would love to ask you more about, can you tell me about what key factors played into decision making to expand to a larger warehouse, and were there mistakes made along the way and stuff?
We've made, this podcast isn't long enough to tell you about all the mistakes that I've made. We don't call them mistakes. We don't call it losing. We call it, you're either winning or learning. After we left Denver, we came out to Fort Morgan because it was better. Not better. It was bigger. What was better about Fort Morgan were the ability to hire employees in Fort Morgan. It was really challenging in Denver. It was not challenging at all in Fort Morgan, so that played into it. One of the challenges in Fort Morgan is that we had 3 buildings. We had 70,000 square feet between the 3 buildings. One of them was cold, one of them was ambient, and another building was sort of in between in that 50-degree range. So the cold storage gets held about 35. Having 3 buildings is not very efficient. But we figured it out. We slowly grew into those 3 buildings, and then after a few years, we were so full in those buildings that we had like 25 rental trailers sitting outside of the building, full of product holding things that the building couldn't accommodate, which is when the conversation got started about possibly doing another expansion. That expansion, we thought maybe it was going to happen on the same lot that we owned in Fort Morgan. I mean, there was so many conversations around where to do it. Then we bought another piece of ground in other locations in Wiggins, Colorado. Through our due diligence, it wasn't the best spot. And the city of Fort Morgan has always been really good to work with. I'm pretty close with the city manager there. And he finally made a compelling enough argument to come to their industrial area. They made us some offers that we couldn't refuse, mm-hmm. and it's been a good partnership with them. And, you know, then the next step was trying to figure out how to secure $40 million. So you asked earlier about, you know, bank lending. My small bank isn't going to loan me $40 million. So going out to the PEO groups and finding somebody that was in that space, was interesting. I mean, I'd never done it before. So, these people, they know what they're doing. This is the business they're in. And so, they have a team of attorneys. We get these stacks of contracts that we're looking at. It's like, oh my goodness. That's when our attorneys come in. Like, can you please explain this to me in English? What are we signing? What's good? What's bad? Of course, it was their contract, so everything's written in their favor. So, it was redlined for, I think we worked on that contract for 9 months before it finally all came together, and then broke ground last August, and we officially moved in about a month ago.
Amazing. Yeah, so, talking too about going out to private equity and then, that lasting 9 months, then another 9 months, you're, waiting for the specs to be approved, and then you have to build everything. That's just, when you're thinking about long-term strategic decision making, you're really talking about possibly years.
Yeah, for somebody like me, it was excruciating. I'd like to move quickly. We've always been pretty nimble and able to do that. In this situation, it obviously required a lot more strategic planning. I think our expansion, as that comes to fruition, when that happens, it'll be a lot easier. We've already got the site. We've already got the building. It'll just be a situation of, we know where everything goes. How do we want to design that last bit of square footage that might be a little bit different than what we've currently got designed? But that won't take years and months to negotiate.
Yeah.
I think that is more of a multiple month process than multiple years.
And I have a question. In a cold storage facility business where consistency is very important, how do you handle the standardization, like by providing the flexibility to customers?
We use this a lot in our operation. We talk about McDonald's a lot. One of the things at all McDonald's is always the same, whether it's in Fort Collins or in Kentucky or in Florida or in California. You go to McDonald's and you order a Big Mac or a quarter pounder with cheese, and it's always the same. It looks the same, it tastes the same, it's always the same. Our standard operating procedures, SOPs, we model them the same way. Whoever is doing a job in the facility, this is how the job gets done. So if you take person A off of that and put person B onto it, it's done exactly the same. So it's always the same. Whatever job that is, it doesn't change. So that way the consistency is there no matter what, no matter who is doing it, everybody's interchangeable in terms of whatever their roles inside of the company would be, to make sure that every single day everything is done the same way, so that it always shows up the same standard that our customer base expects. Mondays, Saturdays, Tuesdays, they're all the same.
Yeah, we talk a lot about vertical integration, and even just when companies, or vertical coordination, when companies, have suppliers, downstream is really, the downstream purchasers are the ones that might set the quality standards, and then going upstream, they need to make sure that their suppliers are meeting those consistency. We talked about an example of chicken today, that if the chicken breasts are not the same size, that can have downstream consequences on food safety. So if something's not cooked long enough, because on the production line, when you're at Raising Cane's or something and that chicken breast is too big, but it's only in the fryer for a certain amount of minutes, doesn't get cooked all the way through,
Then that's a problem. That's right.
Yeah. So it's great to hear that, you're facing, you're living that. You're living that in real time.
Yeah, it's just, those are the things that you learn over time. You don't ever know any of this stuff. You don't know what you don't know. And so it's just over time that we've figured out the key to consistency is consistency. It sounds simple, but it's really hard to learn.
Yeah.
What were some key role models that have made an impact on how you behave as entrepreneur today?
So I have multiple people that were role models, starting out with my dad, who was a farmer. It's a pretty good role model for an entrepreneur. Somebody that gets up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and is done working oftentimes at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, having that role model in my life. Showed me that he wasn't going to feel sorry for me. So not about how hard I was going to need to work to do this. I had another role model early in my career. His name was David DeBerry. He's an onion farmer, salesperson based out of South Texas. And he took me under his wing. I would almost call it an internship. I worked for him seasonally for multiple years. And he was quite an influence on me. The former president of our bank, his name is John Sneed, stood by me during some really challenging times in my career when I had money, when I had a lot of debt. He liked to coin the phrase once in a while to me that, John, you can't borrow your way out of debt. It always stuck with me. He knew a lot about business because he looked at a lot of businesses. And so he played a key role in mentoring me and advising me. Obviously, I owed the bank a lot of money, so they wanted me to succeed. But that's not why he took me under his wing. He was good at that. Lastly, our CEO, Travis Bain. I hired him, and he came on as an employee, and just seeing what a tremendous leader he's been, and he's become a partner to me at this point. And this business is as much mine as it is his, and he's been real inspirational to me.
So we're going to end with one more question from Dani.
Yeah,
to close us out today.
One more question. I feel like it's applicable to a lot of our classmates. Is if you could talk to your 20-year-old self today, what advice would you give him about persistence and tolerance?
It's going to be harder than you think. Yeah. The world is a cruel place. It doesn't care about you. It doesn't care if you're happy or if you're sad, if you've had a weekend off or a vacation, if you're doing well or not doing well. It's what your mom and dad are for, and your friends. But the world in general, the business world, it's going to wake up and do what it's going to do every single day with you or without you. So if you think that you're going to be an entrepreneur and have work-life balance, you're in the wrong business. Tuesdays and Saturdays are the same. Like, it's just in the very beginning. I probably work 60 or 80 hours a week at least for almost 20 years. When things go wrong at 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You got to go fix them. You can't. There's not going to be somebody to always be there to bail you out, especially in the beginning. As your businesses grow, as you become more successful, you get a little of that back because there's some backup. But in the beginning, when you're starting out with things, it's challenging. So what would I tell my 20-year-old self? Good luck. Believe in yourself, because nobody else will. Work hard, and don't start a trucking company.
Well, you're built for it. I mean, truly, we've learned so much today, and I just can't thank you enough, John, for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, John.